learning has moved 6 major warships towards Iran. Warships with mega offensive capabilities have been moved as US builds up the pressure on Iran. As far as the warships are concerned, we're learning that includes the carrier battle group USS Abraham Lincoln. Other than that, the US has moved 6 major warships towards Iran, and that in a way is to build pressure on Iran ahead of the crucial talks. Remember, that is going to take place, the second round of talks on Tuesday. For more on this, let me go across to consulting editor Srinjoy Chaudhary. Good morning, Srinjoy. Now, in a way, US is building the pressure on Iran. We're learning that as far as the carrier battle is concerned, earlier they had sent USS Abraham Lincoln. Now, 6 more major warships have been moved towards Iran. Very important ahead of the second round of talks on Tuesday.
Yes, initially you had the carrier battle group Abraham Lincoln, which really was one aircraft carrier, one of the 11 super carriers that the Americans have, plus 3 guided missile destroyers. Now what we are hearing is 6 naval warships. The Americans have sent 6 naval warships additional, and 4 of them are guided missile destroyers, like the Spruance, like the Frank Peterson, and so on. And 2 are literal combat ships, the Santa Barbara and the Canberra. Now 6 ships is a very strong force. And these 4 guided missile destroyers, like the Frank Peterson, like the Spruance, they can fire Tomahawk cruise missiles. Now, Tomahawk cruise missiles can be fitted with nuclear weapons. So that's one. And they can be fired from a range of about 2,000 kilometers. So if you want to target something 2,000 kilometers away, you can fire a Tomahawk missile. Now, this is serious posturing. We have to see what happens after this, because while America has sent the Abraham Lincoln and the carrier battle group plus all these ships, we also hear that another carrier, the Gerald Ford, could be moving, but the Gerald Ford is still a long distance away. But that said, President Trump has also spoken about discussions, and discussions with the Iranians are actually beginning in Switzerland. So we have to see what finally happens. This is a stick and carrot at its best, but we have to see how the talks go, and these talks are about nuclear diplomacy, Iran's plans to have nuclear weapons, all of that. So it is important to see how things go in Switzerland and, of course, in the Persian Gulf.
Absolutely, and it remains to be seen whether there will be any sort of breakthrough or not. Those second round of talks will be, in fact, on Tuesday is what we're learning. Thanks so much, Srinjoy. But stay on with us. We have another breaking update coming in after US moves a warship towards Iran. There's a big statement that is coming from US Department of State. US has issued a stern warning to Iran, saying that Iran will never be allowed to have a nukes. US has backed a deployment of warships. US has moved to thwart the attack from the other side. So this is what the Department of Justice, the Department of State, I beg your pardon, has posted. Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. That's pretty clear. We obviously want to have forces in the region because they have shown in the past that they're willing to attack us. Beyond that, the president has said that his preferences is to reach a deal. So the focus will be on the deal is what we are learning. That a second round of talk will take place on Tuesday. And ahead of that, the Department of State has posted that Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Coming to you, Srinjoy, in fact, you spoke about the nuclear diplomacy, that Iran wants to have nuclear weapons, but US is opposed to it. Take us through what can be expected as far as the second round of talks are concerned, because very clearly US has said that Iran will never be allowed to have nuclear weapons.
Yes, that's what the Americans have said. The talks begin, as you rightly said, on Tuesday, and this round of talks begins in Switzerland. Now the point is that there are many countries, America, other countries in the West, who don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. Iran says it doesn't want to have nuclear weapons, it doesn't want to have nuclear capacities. It just wants a civilian nuclear program. There's a trust deficit here, a huge trust deficit, and that has to be overcome over the talks that begin on Tuesday.
Absolutely. And now, in fact, US saying that Iran will not be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Stay on with us. We have another breaking update coming in. Let's tell our viewers about the second round of talks that are going to take place on Tuesday. The US and Iran are expected to hold the next round of talks over the nuclear deal on Tuesday. And according to the reports, the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and he's expected to attend the meeting. This comes in the backdrop of US President Donald Trump emphasizing the need for a deal with Iran and warning that failure to reach the agreement could be traumatic, and that is what he had said yesterday. And now US is saying that Iran will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, and that's very clear is what they have said. So all eyes will be on the Tuesday second round of talks between the two countries. Whether or not there will be a breakthrough is something that remains to be seen. But Srinjoy, take us through what has happened in the last round of talk, because that is very important. Clearly there was no breakthrough.
Yes. It looked like there would be some kind of breakthrough, but eventually it didn't happen. But it's important to focus on what happens on Tuesday, because as far as the Iranians are concerned, they have always said, we don't want to have a nuclear weapon. But as I had said earlier, there is a trust deficit. The West believes that Iran is very keen to have a nuclear weapon, and that, as a result, is a big issue. Now, if the Americans have said, if the president himself has said Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, then naturally every effort will be made by the Americans. You have the Abraham Lincoln supercarrier with its battle group. You have the Gerald Ford, another supercarrier coming towards this area. You already have 4 more guided missile destroyers, 2 littoral combat ships, the Santa Barbara and the Canberra, and 4 destroyers, Frank Peterson, Spruance, couple of others. So the whole point is the Americans are really putting pressure on Iran, and we really have to see how things work out.
Absolutely, and we spoke about how the US is building pressure on Iran, but do tell us about how has Iran reacted to this? What has their stand been as far as the talks are concerned, the building of pressure, and most importantly, the stand of the US and their move of moving the carrier battle group USS Abraham Lincoln towards Iran?
Iran has made it clear that it's sufficiently well armed, and any attack on Iran in any way will mean clear hostilities. Iran has a sufficiently large array of missiles, ballistic missiles. They are short-range and medium-range ballistic missiles. Let's not forget the Americans have bases in the area. They have one in Bahrain, they are present in Kuwait, they are there in Qatar, and a lot of other places. There is also Israel. Let's not forget that the Israelis are little Satan as far as Iran is concerned, and America is great Satan. So Israel and these American bases will be targets if Iran is attacked, and that's something Iran has made very clearly. So that is Iran's position, that if we are attacked, we will hit back. And what happens, we don't know, but the talks begin later this coming week, and let's hope there is forward movement.
Absolutely, and ahead of that, US is building pressure on Iran. Thank you so much, Srinjoy, for getting us all those details.